There's no doubt that Ben Cayetano is one of the most passionate people in Hawaii, and certainly in Hawaii politics. And today, the former governor is on Hawaii on News Behind the News, and he's going to tell us about why he's running for Honolulu mayor, and also talk about some of the other issues that are going to be involved in the mayor's race. I'm so glad you came today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Malia. It's
Sure.
a pleasure.
And I want to say right up front that we invited, we're going to also have Peter Carlisle hopefully on the show, and Kirk Caldwell, because they're running as well. And I'd love to have some time, maybe a forum with you, but I'm proud of you because you're the bravest that has come on first.
Yeah, it's always a challenge to be before you, you know.
Well, okay, tell us about why on earth, I mean, you've been governor, you've been in top state office. Why on earth, and you've been, of course, in the legislature and lieutenant governor, and you retired from politics, you wrote your book, you've been on before talking about your book. But why on earth would you want to come back to politics?
Well, I was hoping, first of all, I didn't like what I saw happening at the city. Honolulu is a unique city, it's a beautiful city at the current time. But so because I didn't like what I was seeing, and in fact I was pretty scared about what I was seeing, I was hoping someone else would run. And in fact, we tried to encourage a few people to run, you know. And when no one stood up, so to speak, my wife, Vicky, said, "You better run, otherwise you'll be miserable," you know. And so at the very last minute, I decided, okay, I'll get back into it after 10 years. And so when we started, you know, we didn't have any organization, you know, because all of my political support had pretty much, you know, either got old or they're doing other things. And so we really had to start from scratch, but I'm kind of pleased at the way it's going right now. Great.
Okay, so you got in the mayor's race. Now, what are the biggest issues you think are going to be tackled in the mayor's race? We have the rail, we have infrastructure. Do you think that's pretty, and the budget? Do you think those are the three?
Well, if I had to, yes. But if I had to really, you know, give you an overall look, at least what I see is that rail is just a symptom, and perhaps the biggest symptom of all of the issues facing the city. And this is really a defining moment for the city, because if you know, if we get into too much debt, then what we leave to future generations is a mountain of debt, and also this city will begin to deteriorate because the infrastructure already is old. It's deteriorating, and I would say that the past 3 mayors have pretty much kicked the can down the road, because the magnitude of what has to be done to fix the sewers and the water system and even the roads is really awesome.
I mean, we're talking about at least $5–6 billion, right, between the road repairs and the sewer, the mandated what we have to do for sewers, and.
Well, the estimates that I got, $5 to $6 billion for the sewer upgrades, the same amount, $5 to $6 billion for the water system, which, by the way, has experienced for the last 5 years an average of over 350 water main breaks a year, and $1.6 billion to repave the roads. What they've been doing in the past is just to try to patch things up. You have to actually tackle the issue and repave the roads. And then the storm drains are in disrepair, and that's really dangerous because you know, you have a big storm, it can affect not only property but life as well. 800 million. You pile all of these things up, and you look at the unfunded liabilities for the retirement system and for the employees' health fund. 8 billion, 14 billion. It's incredible, and to put another 5 to 7 billion on top of that, I fear that we may actually head for bankruptcy.
Now we hear, and we have seen other cities go bankrupt across the country. We hear these people from Go Rail Go. I know in a recent interview I did with you, they were yelling "Go Rail Go" at you, and we see them challenging you. Well, how are we supposed to get to work? And we want the rail because we're going to ride it, and it's going to take shorten our commute. What is your response to them?
Even the Federal Transit Administration agrees that, first of all, that it won't reduce traffic congestion. Okay, everybody's agreed on that. But they say it's an alternative, basically, for the people who now catch the bus. My view is that instead of spending $5 to $7 billion for a brand new alternative system, why not improve the bus? Because in 2000, Parsons Brinckerhoff did a study for Jeremy Harris, and they concluded that bus rapid transit was a far better choice than rail, because it was about 1/5 the cost. It was very flexible. You could move it around if things didn't work out. And the ridership, the bus was forecasted to carry a little more riders than rail. So there's a lot of mythology about rail. Now, these guys who are demonstrating, I doubt if many of them will use rail. A lot of these guys are construction workers. I can't see them getting on catching a bus from where they live, walking down to the bus stop, taking the bus down to the rail station with their tools and all of that, and then and going to work. No, these guys they're gonna be in their pickup trucks. And in fact, the polls indicate that the majority of the people, including many of those who support rail, are not going to take it.
They will not ride it.
Yes,
right.
They will not ride it. Mm-hmm. They will not ride it. Yeah.
I know they started that campaign, I will ride, but we'll have to see, right? We'll have to track them. Actually, at the recent Go Rail Go rally, which was at, spontaneously, I guess, at the event that was run by different groups that are against the rail or want to educate people about problems with the rail.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize anyone there, and they didn't even look like construction workers. I was suspicious that they might be Parsons Brinckerhoff consultants. Who knows? Yeah.
I can't tell, but I know they were. If you're talking about the one in Kapolei.
The one in town.
Oh, the one in town.
Yeah.
Well, some of those guys who were there, I think they were from the laborers union.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But there were, a diversity of people.
That's true. That's true.
Most of them didn't look happy to be there.
That's true. Okay, well, tell us about, we're talking about the roads, and everywhere you go. I mean, I'm in Hawaii Kai. I drive to Waimanalo, through Waimanalo to Kailua to see my family. I drive to town and then of course I drive all over the island for work. There's potholes everywhere, especially with the recent rains. Mm-hmm. And why do you think that these can't get fixed?
It can get fixed but you have to spend the money for it, Mm-hmm. So the last 3 administrations basically have been just filling up the potholes. In fact, they have some kind of pothole hotline. If you see a pothole, then you call in and they come and they fix it. That's not the answer. If you talk to people who are experienced in road repair and all of that, they'll tell you that it's more costly to just repair potholes than it is to repave the road. And that's what we need to do. We have the opportunity to do that if we use the rail money. Now, in the past, without the rail money, the 3 mayors felt that they couldn't do it because they just didn't have enough funds. Well, if you use the rail money now, and we're talking about as much as 1.5 or maybe even 2 billion, you can accelerate the sewers upgrade, the water main system upgrade, and you can repave the roads. Mm-hmm. And that creates a lot of jobs.
I think people would be happy if they didn't have potholes to fall into while they're driving, and probably be a lot safer. You've taken on some very tough people and very powerful people in your own party who really want this rail, mm-hmm. and have made it kind of their calling card that they want this. For example, Senator Inouye, and he used a recent hearing in the Senate to speak to Ray LaHood, who's the Secretary of Transportation, and talk about how they're going to get this New Start funding, the $250 million, or they're applying for it, which would make Hawaii the state that got the most New Start mm-hmm. funding, $250 million. And of course, Senator Inouye has pledged to try to bring in $1.55 billion for the rail project, which is still in question. But what do you say to them when they're saying, this is important, and you're in the same party? How does that work?
Well, I wrote the senator who I've known for a long time, and mm-hmm. I always considered a friend, and I supported him in every election, and I think he supported me. I wrote to him and out of courtesy and respect, and I told him, look, on this one we disagree, and here's the reasons why I disagree. He never sent me a reply, mm-hmm. So apparently this is a big issue to him. Mm-hmm. What's unfortunate is that I feel that the senator is operating at the 30,000-foot level, international and national affairs. He really hasn't had the time to get down to ground level and go to McDonald's, and talk to the senior citizens who go over there for breakfast because they have a fixed income and they're trying to stretch things. I'm at the supermarket, and some senior citizen would come up to me and express their concern because the water bills have increased about 60%. And the plan now is to, over the next 5 years, to increase it 10% every year. Sewers, same thing. That's a very, very, very big cost to people who don't make a lot of money or who are retired, living on fixed income. Young people in particular who are just starting their families and saying, we got to move. We got to go to the mainland or someplace because we can't afford it here. We pay the highest gas tax in the nation. Already our monopolistic Hawaiian Electric Company is doing commercials, of all things, to prepare us for the big rate increase that they're going to propose. They wouldn't do it otherwise. Everything that we need to have and sustain a comfortable living here costs more than the mainland. And so I think we need to take those kind of things into account and how they affect the quality of life of all of our people. Now, Peter Carlisle, Kirk Caldwell, and yours truly will be able to afford those things. I don't know about the rest of the people, And then the other thing about this project and why I feel strongly also, we are a tourism destination. And it's important, I think, whenever we do something to improve the city, we take into account that fact. Doesn't make sense to me to have a 35 to 60 foot concrete structure running along the waterfront and blocking the views, and and running through Halakawila Street and unearthing all those ancient burial sites and bones. Maybe that's okay in Chicago, but we're not Chicago. We're Honolulu.
Now, one of the things that came out recently was that you brought up in a recent press conference. Well, and speaking of Ray LaHood, there's some emails that were uncovered, and you're a plaintiff in a lawsuit with 6 other groups and individuals, and to try to stop the rail, challenging it on the environmental impact. And some of the information that came out were these emails between FTA officials, and they're talking about problems with the project or kind of putting down the city in terms of how they're managing it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we finally got the administrative record as a result of the lawsuit. And so we went through, it's about 500,000 pages. And we went through and we culled out these emails, which we thought were significant because when you uncover emails from one FTA staff person to another, and they believe they're writing to each other in private, that's meaningful because then you can find out what they really think about the project, as opposed to Mr. LaHood testifying before the TV cameras, before Senator Inouye's committee, and saying things like, this project is important, it'll deliver people all over the island. Well, we know that's not true, and it's an indication to me that he really doesn't know what the system is all about. So, and it's strange that people who are in journalism, it seems to me, would consider that kind of information maybe more important because it's stuff that the public doesn't see. And that's why we felt it was important. One email I recall, and I'm paraphrasing now, basically said that the FTA should not be involved with the lousy practices of public manipulation, that was followed by the city. This was an email in 2006, but it's still relevant because in 2006, that's when the city was preparing its PR campaign. And I think these FTA guys were looking at it and they said, oh no, we don't want any part of this. We have contended that the PR campaign has been is one-sided, is biased, and that's part of the reason why we have this lawsuit. And so that email I thought was very relevant. And then there was another one that warned the city, unless you do certain things, we're going to get sued. And they got sued. And the question is whether the things that were supposed to be done were done. We don't find any evidence of it, and that's why we sued the city and the FTA. So, people say, well, this is not right. Yeah, it is relevant.
Right, and they're talking about the city's put itself in a pickle because of the timing of the contracts. That was another email you released, I think, talking about, and the city was fined $15 million, right?
Right. Well, basically, that email, the one about the city putting themselves in a pickle, here again is an FDA staffer saying, these guys are letting out these contracts and they can't perform as scheduled. It's crazy. They're going to find themselves in a pickle. And that's exactly what has happened.
Right, and it ends up being the taxpayers that pay for that.
Right, because the city has already told the court through its lawyers that if there's a ruling against them, they will restore whatever they've done. And taxpayers are going to pay for that. So the whole thing, doesn't make sense. I think that the best example recently of the city's mismanagement and rushing this thing is the exchange between Toro Hamayasu and Ikaika Anderson, Councilman Anderson, where Ikaika Anderson is asking Hamayasu and Don Horner whether they should delay the project, delay construction, and Toro comes in and he says, well, it's cheaper for us to build it and then tear it down later. Now, I couldn't figure that one out, but it seems to defy common sense. But when I saw that, I thought to myself, no. The real question is, why did you folks start construction when you don't have the money? If you and I did that, or the guy on the street did that, wrote a check, and we didn't have sufficient funds, and Peter Carlisle was the prosecutor, he'd nail us.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it was a really interesting exchange. I was at that council hearing, and they were talking about building 50 holes in the ground that are 200 feet deep for 8-foot wide posts that are going to go, towering above the ground for the rail to go on. And he was basically saying, like you said, it's better to dig those holes, put up the posts, and have to take them down if they have to, rather than wait because of the contract they got themselves into, which they'll be fined if they delay. So it was quite remarkable.
And the question is, why did you put the city, aka the taxpayers, in that position by issuing a contract prematurely that you did not have the money for? And that's the question I think that Senator Inouye has. I've asked that question, and Dan Inouye hasn't answered it. I asked it directly to Senator Inouye. Peter Carlisle hasn't answered. Neither has Kirk Caldwell, Hamayasu, Horner, and all these guys, the cheerleaders for rail, have ducked that question. And yet it is, I think, one of the most important questions that the public would be interested in.
I think we're seeing some people change their minds about rail that have been hardcore supporters. For example, maybe they're not changing their mind completely about supporting the project, but Ikaika Anderson, as you mentioned, Councilman Anderson, was very tough with his questions, as was Tulsi Gabbard. And they've been very strong supporters of the rail. Now they're starting to ask, well, why is it, why can't you just wait? And I know I've asked Peter Carlisle, why not just wait until the rail suit's resolved in August, until the mayor's election is resolved on who's going to win, and until the federal funding comes in. And his response is that the rail has been debated for decades, and now it's time to get it going because, why wait anymore? It's already been waited. We've waited long enough.
Well, that's not an answer, in my opinion, And when people say rail has been debated long enough, they assume that rail is the answer. One reason why rail has failed so many times is that there were some brave elected officials, like Arno Morgado, for example, who looked at all of the information and said, this is not for us, and so they voted it down, And there were reasons for it. Now, Morgado, a very, very bright, promising career, ended because he opposed rail, and the unions pretty much ended his career.
So, what do you think is next with this whole mayor election? I mean, we've seen Peter Carlisle make some recent gaffes where he's admitted, for example, that he didn't know about 20%, what was it, a 20% debt level ceiling being raised while he was away, I guess. Doug, his mayoral assistant, had approved it without his knowledge. And, we've seen some interesting admissions recently with Peter Carlisle being out of town quite a bit and maybe not getting a handle on so much on what's happening.
Well, you know, that's not the only incident. Toro, we found out through going through the administrative record that Toro Hamayasu had signed the change order to pay the $15 million way back in October of 2011. And the mayor didn't know about it for almost a year. The only way it came out publicly is Kevin Dayton of the Star Advertiser went through the record and found the letters. And so if he didn't, nobody would know about it, you know. Now, those kind of people did that to me in my administration. I'd fire them, you know, because on key issues like the exceeding the 20% ceiling, you have to tell the chief executive that this is why we have to do it, and do you approve? You can't have the managing director do this all by himself. He wasn't elected, you know, it's the mayor that's elected. Otherwise, why do you need Carlisle as mayor? Maybe the position of mayor should be abolished.
And it was funny you said that because I actually asked him at a press conference, I said, who's running the city? You know, you just admitted, because I had them both there and I was able to ask him that. And he said, we're both running the city.
Well, I wish he says that when we get together because, you know, Doug Chin was not elected. He was. Peter was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely going to be an interesting race, and I think your entry into it's going to add a lot of fire and well-deserved debate. The public deserves to, because the public is very divided on rail, and as we've seen recently with polls, less and less people support the project.
Well, we think that the tide has turned. You know, in a very short while, it went to from 43% approval to now 53%.
Disapproval of the rail? Or
no, approval.
Oh, approval of...
Yeah, see...
go ahead, sorry, explain.
It was 43, 43 disapproval, 49% approval. And now it's 53% disapproval.
For the rail project.
Right. And that's happened because the people are beginning to get more information, you know. And it's not so much that people are against rail, period. They're beginning to say, we're against this rail because it's going to... You know, it's going to environmentally, aesthetically, it's ugly. It doesn't fit with our city, and the cost is just too much to pile upon all this other debt. You know.
But you're up against, you know, these commercials that are running on the radio about how great the rail is, about the city spending $145,000 to talk about the rail project again, that it started, and you're up against the unions and a lot of other, you know, powerful forces. How are you going to overcome that? You
know, we have the facts on our side. I like to say I think we have the truth on our side, and that's always more powerful than any number of commercials that you put on. You know, and that's why, in spite of all that hype, they've spent almost $6 million now. I think 5.6 was the last accounting that I heard on PR to promote this thing. It's unprecedented. I never, you know, knew of anything like that in all my 28 years in public office.
And that's taxpayer money, right?
It's taxpayers' money, and basically, if you're going to use taxpayers' money, then you better be upfront and tell the taxpayer, you know, be objective about things. But it's all been one-sided. People are not dumb, you know. They're smarter than you know, most of these guys think, and I feel that the tide has shifted, the momentum has shifted, and it's going to be very hard for them to turn it around unless they start to attack me, you know. There's an old saying among lawyers, you know, if you have the facts on your side, then you pound the facts. If you don't have the facts on your side, you pound your adversary.
That's right.
You know, and we know that they've already formed a pack, and they're going to try and come after me on personal stuff, but you know, I've been through this before, you know, and we're ready for it. And I think this is one of those cases where the people have caught on.
And plus, you put almost all your personal information in a book.
That's right. They can go to my book and they can find out if I was not an illegitimate child, you know, and a lot about my family and, you know, the trouble I got into when I was a kid, that kind of stuff.
But I think those are stories that everybody can relate to because everybody's had these things, you know, happen to them or their relatives, right?
That's right, you know, and that's why maybe the book has done very well.
Yeah, good, good. Well, what else do you want to, emphasize in this campaign? I mean, what do you think are going to be your main points?
Well, the main thing that we have to do is to reach as many people as we can and do a couple things. First of all, explain to them my vision for the city and the alternative to traffic congestion, what we can do that'll help us manage traffic congestion, because you can never really reduce it, and how important it is to upgrade our infrastructure. Sometimes Peter, Peter and Kirk are friends of mine. Maybe, hopefully, they'll still be friends after this is all over. But sometimes he kind of reminds me of Nero, fiddling away while the city just deteriorates, because he doesn't seem to understand the need to fix the foundation of the city. Now, if you take the water system, the Board of Water Supply has a plan where they're supposed to do 30 miles of upgrade every year. Fiscal 2011, according to what we saw in the budget, they did 1 mile. They will never catch up, And now, you can argue, well, the Board of Water Supply is semi-autonomous, but it's the mayor who appoints people to the board. And even if there was not one person on that board who was appointed by the mayor should use his bully pulpit or his influence to go and talk to those guys and say, listen, you got to do better. You got to do better than 1 mile a year. And that's why that's why I feel good about this election. I think that we can get that information out to the people, and we're doing it every day. We're going to win.
Well, I can say safely that nobody else has put themselves more on the line than you about this rail project. You're involved in the lawsuit and you're involved in the campaign. So I give you credit for following your passion.
Well, Malay, I always look at it this way. Public service is, if you're selected to serve the people in political office, it's a great privilege. And you shouldn't be afraid, I think, to lose your political life, especially when we got 18, 19, 20-year-olds on the other side of the world who are getting killed or wounded or maimed every day, and so it's the people for whom politics is everything who are afraid to make any kind of move. That has never been the case with me. I feel very lucky to be able to serve, and I'll do it again. No matter how old I am.
All right, well, thank you for joining us today. It's already over. We need another hour. This has been News Behind the News, and you can check out Governor Ben Cayetano's website, which is
Vote Ben 2012.
Vote Ben 2012, and we'll have him on again. Thank you for joining us. Aloha.